So you're expecting a large bequest from dearly beloved, a bequest that would, maybe set you up for most of your life or at least for the next couple of weeks. And then you find out that you've been cut out of the will or getting very little. And you are insane with rage. You are heartbroken because of this happening and you're beside yourself. Lawyers, because we kind of fear strong emotions, call you a disgruntled heir, someone that is a little miffed, perhaps. Now, who would be a disgruntled heir? It would be anyone who would get more money if the will was no good and the estate went by intestacy, or if someone has some statutory rights to some of the estate, or if someone was going to get more money under a prior will and would like to throw out the subsequent will. Now, there are some people, I'm going to go through very briefly some of the people that have stronger claims than others. First of all, spouses. In almost all states, the surviving spouse is entitled to a third or a half of the estate. So if you find that you haven't gotten your fair share, definitely see a lawyer, because that should be fairly easy to take care of. Children also have a special place. And by children, I mean not only the legitimate children, also the adopted children, and also the illegitimate children of the decedent. Now, if other children were named in the will, but you weren't, the argument is that you were just forgotten rather than disinherited. And a careful lawyer, to prevent that claim, will in fact in the will name the children if they intended to disinherit them. I'm not leaving Samson any money because he won't get his hair cut, things like that. If you are a child born after the will was written, you have a very strong claim that it wasn't meant to take care of you, and you can go in on that basis. One kind of tricky problem is children from prior marriages. Let's say that your mother died and your father, a couple years later, married someone who we will call evil stepmother. Usually, when this happens, the agreement is that between the two, when the first dies, they will leave all of the estate to the survivor, with the understanding that when the subsequent partner dies, the money will be divided between the children of both marriages. But let's say evil stepmother didn't give you a cent and left it all to her own kids. See a lawyer if that's happened. Maybe a hard case to make, but definitely worth a half an hour of your time and a lawyer's time to explore. If there are strange gifts in a will, that raises red flags. If all the money goes to a caretaker or a large amount, or goes to a TV preacher, or goes to a neighbor or somebody like that, or maybe even to a political party, the claim is that maybe that really wasn't the person's intention that was making the will, that they fell under undue influence of some party. One of the things you'll find if you take your parents to a lawyer to get a will made is that the lawyer will ask you to leave the room, because they want to make sure that if the parents say, I want to leave it all to my son or my daughter, that they are doing that of their own will and not because the son or daughter is sitting next to them glowering. Also, the claim might be that the person leaving all this money to this bizarre cause just had lacked capacity, mental capacity. Probably the favorite of all lawyers is when you can establish that the person who is taking under the will actually murdered the decedent. There is a saying or a maxim in law that you cannot profit from your own wrong. And we've all been alive long enough in our world to know that that saying is more of an inspirational statement than it is a descriptive statement. If it is shown that someone murdered the decedent, they cannot take under the will because that would be profiting from their own wrong. One of the things is if you suspect any of these things, anything wrong with the will, you've got to move fairly quickly, because once the will goes into probate, things might happen quickly, and if it comes out of probate, the probate's over with, it's going to be very, very difficult to untie all of those knots. One thing, however, is if you suspect murder and undue influence and lack of capacity, you probably won't have to contest the will because you have one great novel.